Welcome back to Paper Things. Today we'll be reading chapters 32 through 35. Chapter 32, Tissues. As Chloe and Gage head down the stairs, I hear a guy say, "Hey, where's the little one?" Gage says something I won't repeat, and one of the guys says, "Hey, easy man, we're just having a little fun." Then I hear Chloe say, "Forget them, Gage. We don't have time for this." And they're gone. The silence in the apartment takes me by surprise. Even though I'd expected them to leave, I still can't quite believe that my plan worked. Gage will be mad when he gets home and finds that I'm still here, that I lied to him about staying at Sasha's and faked the call to Mariana. But I know he and Chloe need a night out together. I know he'll eventually forgive me. Although I can hear voices from downstairs, I feel a million miles away from anyone. The rooms are cavernous. I can see why Chloe wants more furniture, to make it feel more homey. My mind goes to where it usually does when we stay at Chloe's, to spreading out all my paper things. But I can't do that tonight. I can't bear to pull them out and see them ruined. Then I remember that I haven't had dinner. I look in the freezer to see if there are any Hot Pockets. Nope. Only ice and something wrapped in foil. Hamburger, maybe. The fridge has a Tupperware container of leftovers, but when I open it, I see white mold growing on top. The cabinet has more stuff than the refrigerator. I push around some flour, baking soda, breadcrumbs, and a can of tomato paste. And behind them all is a half bag of potato chips, which I eat, even though they are incredibly stale. There's yelling in the stairwell. Sirens wail. A cockroach scurries along the kitchen floor and under the sink. I try to turn on the TV, but the remote has so many buttons it's hard to figure out. I push the button labeled power, but nothing happens. I push and push and push, thinking it might just take the right touch, but nothing. Then I start pushing all of the buttons on the remote one after the other. All kinds of commands come up on the screen, but no TV. That's when I see another remote. I pick it up, press power, and the screen is lit. I change the channel to HGTV, and there, thankfully, is my favorite show. I get my blanket and pillow from behind the couch and stretch out. Almost immediately, I start to feel a little cheerier. I feel like I'm there with a young couple who are house hunting. Alongside them, I walk into 3 different houses and ask, could this be my home? At the end of the show, the couple have a little party to celebrate their new home. There's a pitcher of lemonade on the table, and there are lots of platters with veggies and dips and cheese and crackers. Friends and families come to their house and tell them how beautiful it is. The woman points out her favorite corner where she has a big puffy chair with pillows. Behind her are shelves full of books. And then suddenly, I start to cry. And not quiet like sniffling, but huge, full body crying. I don't care how much noise I make in this echoey apartment that isn't mine. I don't care how much snot runs down my face. I just let myself sob. But I'm not crying because the show reminded me that I don't have a home. I'm crying because I do have one. I do have one, and I miss it. There's a sudden screeching, and it's loud, so loud that I don't know it's coming from inside the apartment. I blow my nose with a paper towel and search for the source of the noise. It doesn't take long to figure out that it's coming from the smoke detector in Nate and Cody's room, but I can't see any smoke and I can't smell a fire. I go over to their open window and look down. There are lots of people standing on the fire escape smoking. Perhaps the smoke has drifted up here. Someone on the fire escape sees me and waves. I close the window all the way. But even with the window closed, the smoke detector doesn't stop screeching. It yells and yells and yells. I grab a magazine from Nate's dresser, stand on the bed underneath the smoke detector, and fan the magazine frantically back and forth, till it feels like my arm's going to fall off. Eventually, the wailing stops. I put the magazine back where I found it and I wander into the kitchen. Before I really even know what I'm doing, I pick up the phone and dial Jana's number. She answers on the third ring. I tell her where I am and ask if she'll come get me. That's all. No small chat, no explanation, just a question. She's silent for a moment and I hold my breath. I'll be right there, she says. I hang up and go sit on the couch to wait. Gage will be so mad when he finds out, and hurt. But I can't help it. I've made up my mind. Just like that, I'm going home. Chapter 33. Contracts. When Jana picks me up and I grab my backpack, she says, "Is that all you need?" I nod, but think, no. No, I need so much more than what's in my backpack. I need a homemade dinner, a warm shower, shampoo that smells like strawberries, a cozy bed. I need a place to keep my things, a place to do homework. I need a routine, a regular bedtime, a place to invite friends to. I need rules, all 465 of them. I need the queen of rules. Where did you eat? Where did you sleep? Jana asks, now that I've had a shower and am sitting at the kitchen table. Did that apartment in the West End, the one where I dropped your things, did it ever belong to you? I don't want to provide details that will make it sound even worse than it was, details that will incriminate Gage. I simply shake my head no. I should have realized. I should have checked in with you more often. I should have talked with Human Services. I shouldn't have let my anger and resentment get out of hand. And your hurt feelings, I think, but I don't say that. Because I realize that a lot of what gets between Jana and Gage is their pride and their hurt feelings. It's funny, she says as she sets a grilled cheese and tomato sandwich in front of me. Before I had you guys, I had all kinds of ideas about how kids should be brought up. When I first met you, I couldn't believe how lax your mother was. She seemed to ask so little of you and Gage, and you seemed to get away with so much. She never... Gage is a good guy, I interrupt. Responsible. We may not have had an apartment, but he took good care of me. Jana nods. You're right. In some ways, he's quite mature for a boy his age. I don't know why I couldn't see it before. I was so sure that he was going to turn out to be just like your father, impulsive and headstrong, following his passions and ignoring reality. But I've done a lot of soul searching while you guys were away, and I think I might have misjudged your brother. Maybe your father, too. I was tempted to tell Jana that I knew about her and our dad. Maybe she'd feel she could open up to me then and explain what actually happened all those years ago, why she'd ripped all those pictures in half. But I worried that the only thing she'd hear was that I'd snooped in her scrapbooks, so I remained quiet, finishing my sandwich and wondering when Gage was going to call. Wondering if he was going to call. Before leaving Chloe's apartment, Jana had called Gage's phone and left him a message telling him that I was at her house. Your sister has made a very difficult decision, she'd said, and I know that she is worried about disappointing you. It would mean a great deal to her if you would stop by and talk to her. It would mean a great deal to me, too. But that was 2 whole days ago, and he hasn't come by to see me. He hasn't even called. I'm starting to worry that I'll never see my brother again. But finally, on the 3rd day, he shows up. Jana answers the door. I'm lying on the couch watching House Hunters, which Jana has let me do a lot these past 3 days, probably because she can see that it's the only thing that makes me happy now that Gage has given up on me. I prop myself on my elbows when I hear his voice at the front door, but I stay hidden behind some pillows, listening in. Thank you for coming, I hear Jana say. Gage mutters something in reply, but I can't make it out. Then, is Ari here? She is, Jana says. Would you like me to go get her? Again, Gage mutters something that's too low for me to hear, but Jana doesn't come for me, and I hear chairs scraping across the kitchen floor. So I guess he didn't say, yes, please go get my sister, I miss her terribly. Like I said, this was a very difficult decision for her, Jana says calmly. She didn't want to hurt you. I hate knowing that she lied about staying at Sasha's because she was trying to take care of me, says Gage. It was my job to look after her. I want to rush over and interrupt him, but I don't know what to say. It's not easy looking after a kid, says Jana. You make some decent calls and some that, well, let's just say that making mistakes is a whole lot easier than you think it will be. Yeah, I'd like a couple of do-overs, says Gage. And then there's some mumbling that I can't hear. I picture Jana and Gage nodding in agreement, maybe for the first time ever. So now what? Gage asks. Your room is still available, Jana says, which I know is her way of asking him to move back in. I hold my breath. I want to say, please, 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 but I don't. I think it'd be best for everyone if I lived on my own. My friend West thinks he might be able to set me up with this stability program, which will help me get on my feet. I'll be able to take classes, maybe even start at Port City Community College. I'd like to help you in any way I can, says Jana. I know that we've butted heads in the past, but I really do want what's best for you, and for Ari. You'll let me know if you need help? She asks, and her voice is more vulnerable than I've ever heard it. Gage mumbles his thanks. I don't really believe that he would reach out to Jana for help, but at least he isn't throwing that in her face like in the old days. I should talk to Ari now, he finally says. It's about time, I say, popping up from the couch. Gage smiles when he sees me, and I can tell that no matter how sad my decision has made him, no matter how disappointed he is in me, he still loves me. I'm not prepared for the tears that come when he hugs me, though. What's all this? Gage asks, pulling back to look at me with concern. I'll give you two some privacy, says Jana, and she heads upstairs. I'm sorry, I say, sniffling. I'm sorry I left you. I'm sorry I broke our promise to Mama. I'm sorry I let you down. Ari, he soothes, steering me into a chair at the table next to his. You didn't let me down. I let you down. I never should have taken you from here without an apartment lined up. And I shouldn't have left you alone at Chloe's just so we could go to a stupid concert. You didn't leave me, I say. I tricked you. You thought I was going to Sasha's. Still, he says, and then he's quiet. I need you to know something, I say. I take a breath. I didn't call Jana because I didn't want to be with you anymore. I loved being with you. But, I know this sounds stupid, but here at Jana's, here, I get to be a kid. Just a kid. Gage looks into his folded hands as if they hold some sort of answer, and then finally nods his head. You know, you're pretty smart for a kid. Gage and I catch up for a while. He tells me about the concert and Chloe and his job at Jiffy Lube, and I tell him my plans for my presentation, and then Jana reappears, looking tentative. Gage beckons her into the kitchen with a nod. I thought it might be helpful if we were to work out some sort of schedule, she says, so you guys can do things together regularly. I look at Gage, wondering if he'll be upset at Jana for wanting to make everything so organized, but his expression remains calm. And when I finally get an apartment, says Gage, maybe we can talk about this again? Of course, says Jana. But I think we all know that I won't be moving in with Gage. We don't have to be in the same house to be a family, I say. Whether we live together or not, we stick together, right? Right, says Gage. That's what your mama wanted, Jana says, and I know she's right. Gage gets up to go. I give him the biggest hug I can, and he still has an arm around me when he turns to Jana and says, "There's something I've always wanted to know." Jana, who's busy picking lint off the arm of her sweater, looks up at him. I stop breathing. His voice is suddenly tense, and I'm afraid he's going to start another fight, raising tensions all over again. "Why didn't you ever adopt us?" Jana opens her mouth to reply, but no words escape. She closes it again and seems to try out different answers in her mind until she finds just the right one. When she answers, it's almost a whisper. "I was afraid that if I asked to adopt you, you'd say no." That's not the answer Gage expected, I can tell. He doesn't say anything right away, like he too is thinking carefully. "No one can replace our mom," he says. But the words aren't angry and defensive, like they used to be. Instead, they're gentle, reassuring. "But if we'd known, if we'd known that's what you wanted, well then, maybe that could have been okay." Jana's whole expression softens as if she's just realized something huge. "You thought I didn't want you. You thought I'd taken you and Ari in because I felt obligated to." "Oh, Gage." She gets up and takes a step toward him. He flinches, but she doesn't let that stop her. And then I see something I never thought I'd see. I see Jana hugging Gage, and I see Gage letting her. Chapter 34. Hats. The rumor in the hallways at school is that Crazy Hat Day is going to be this coming Friday, 3 days from today. Kids whisper the news between classes and clam up whenever a teacher walks by. Daniel asks me why I'm letting Keisha organize Crazy Hat Day when it was my idea in the first place. I tell him that she'll be able to make it a much bigger success than I ever could. Besides, I have another idea for how to contribute to one of my favorite Eastland Elementary traditions. When Gage comes over to Jana's, he's brought all of the clothes that I had left at Chloe's and Briggs's. He also brought my piggy bank. "Now you can buy something for yourself," he said. After school, Jana takes me to the bank where the coin machine tallies up my savings, $47.23. "All from collecting coins on the street?" Jana asks incredulously. I smile and tell her that all kinds of valuable things are all around us. We just have to open our eyes. Next, we head to the one-stop party shop, where I buy cheap paper chef hats, pipe cleaners, sports decals, flowers, stick-on bullhorns, ribbons, googly eyes, and weird little rubber alien toys. Briggs is working, and he doesn't seem surprised to see me with Jana, which I guess means that Gage told him that I'd moved back. He tells me he's missed having me around, which I think he's saying just to be nice, and then he offers to let me use his employee discount. Thanks to Briggs, I end up having a little money left over, which I put right back into my piggy bank. On Thursday, I wait till the end of social studies to approach Mr. O. "I'm very impressed with your report on Louisa May Alcott," Mr. O says, and I feel myself blushing with pride. It's been a long time since a teacher complimented me on my schoolwork, and I hadn't realized just how much I missed being a shining star. "Are you all set for your presentation next week?" he asks. I nod, thinking of the computer classes with Ms. Finch and how I'm hoping to incorporate some of what I've learned there into my presentation next Tuesday. "Mr. O," I begin, hoping I'm not about to ruin the mood. "Remember last week when we talked about civil disobedience?" Mr. O cocks an eyebrow. "Yes. What exactly do you have in mind, Ariana?" I hitch my backpack higher up on my shoulders. "Keisha is organizing a Crazy Hat Day tomorrow," I confide, hoping that I haven't misjudged Mr. O and that he'll keep it a secret from Mr. Chandler. "And I thought it would be nice if as many people as possible could make hats. not just the kids she thinks to tell about it. Mr. O is nodding along, but has yet to say anything. So I was wondering if I could set up a crafts table outside your room. I bought all the supplies, I add in a rush so that he doesn't think I'm asking him to help with that. But I thought it would be good to have a place where kids can make their own hats if they want to. That way, no one will feel left out. I don't think in front of my classroom is an appropriate place for such a table, Mr. O says, his expression serious. My stomach drops. Just like that, I've gone from being a shining star to being Ariana Hazard, problem student. I think that such a table really ought to be set up somewhere more central, he continues, like in the front hall. I blink. Near Mr. Chandler's office? Those who engage in acts of civil disobedience must be very brave, he says. Holy moly, I whisper, but I know in my heart that he's right. If Crazy Hat Day is going to be a success, it needs to be front and center, where no one can miss it, especially Mr. Chandler. Thanks, Mr. O'Neill, I say, practically skipping out of his room. Just stay away from the glitter, Mr. O calls after me. I'm excited to tell Daniel about my hat-making table idea, but when I find him during lunch, he looks unconvinced. I don't know, he says, picking at his hot lunch. Won't people think it's kind of lame? I scoff. Since when do you care if people think something's lame? I ask. I actually mean it as a compliment. Daniel is one of the bravest kids I know, always willing to march to his own drum beat, even if it means being laughed at or being sent to the principal's office. But I can tell by the look on his face that he doesn't take it that way. I don't really care if people like Keisha and Sasha think it's lame, I say. I want to have a station for kids who want to make a crazy hat but maybe can't afford to, or who weren't told about Crazy Hat Day because Keisha didn't think they were cool enough to be looped in. The whole point of Crazy Hat Day is that everybody gets to do it, not just the cool, popular kids. Daniel looks at me like he's trying to figure me out. Maybe it's because up until recently I was basically one of those cool, popular kids. Never quite as popular as Keisha and her crew, but not exactly someone who worried about what the poor kids or the unpopular kids were going through. And suddenly I decide that I want Daniel to know what's changed. I take a deep breath and tell him that for the past 6 weeks, Gage and I were on our own, hopping from place to place, sometimes staying at shelters, sometimes eating at the soup kitchen. At first I hear my voice waver because I'm embarrassed to be admitting all of this. But the more I talk and the more Daniel listens without judging, the more I realize that I don't have to be ashamed of my truth. That Gage and I were still the same people we'd always been, but even if the circumstances we were living in looked pretty different. We were actually pretty lucky, I say, realizing perhaps for the first time just how true this is. We had friends who helped us along the way. We were never truly on our own. Wow, he says quietly. I'm quiet for a moment too, stuck in some of those memories. My thoughts flash briefly to my paper things, but even that ache has dulled, like the wound is already starting to heal. Anyway, I say, that's why I want to make it easy for kids to make hats, and I was kind of hoping that you'd work the hat table with me. Daniel looks serious, and I'm afraid he's going to say no. Is it because he's embarrassed to be seen with me in a public place? It depends, he says at last. Will you jump off the bleachers with me? No way, I say. I already told you. Daniel holds up a finger to stop me. Then he pulls out my note, which is nearly worn to tatters, and reads aloud. I have thought of 2 activities for number 7 and 8, and if you'll do those, I'll do your items with you, okay? Help Ariana Hazard get a leadership role. Help Ariana Hazard apply to Carter. But we didn't do either of those things, I point out. I never got a leadership role, and we never filled out my application to Carter. Yeah, but you're on your way, right? This time I don't argue with Daniel. I may not have an Eastland leadership role or a completed application to Carter, but I've found my own way to be a leader, and for the first time I understand why Daniel is less concerned than the rest of us about where he goes to school next year. You can be your best self, no matter where you are. So you'll do it, he asks. I'll think about it, I say. Chapter 35, Newspapers. My stomach is très rolly as I walk to school on Friday morning. I'm worried that Mr. Chandler is going to be furious. I'm worried that Daniel won't join me at the table in front of the whole school. But most of all, I'm worried that I'm going to throw up again. Hello there, Ari, a voice calls to me as I near the bus stop. I look around and spot Reggie and Amelia across the street. Reggie, I shout, waving happily. Hi. I wait till the road is clear and then dash across to Reggie's side of the street. How have you guys been? I ask, scratching Amelia behind the ears. Her tail swings wildly. Can't complain, Reggie says, which is something I like about him. He's always looking on the bright side of things. The weather's warming up, I say, raising my face a bit to greet the morning sun. That makes everything better. Indeed it does, he agrees, and it makes for good paper wish plane flying. I look at him curiously. You haven't heard? He asks. I'm working at the different shelters here in Port City. I happened to tell someone who works at the men's shelter about your plane and the one I made for your friend. You know, the one who wanted the bike? I nod, encouraging him to go on. Well, as it turns out, there's this program to help folks set goals and then take baby steps toward making them happen. I sit down with individuals, or sometimes families, and listen to their hopes. Then I help them fold a wish plane, one chosen especially for them. I guess the people who hired me think that it's helpful for people to zoom in on a goal and launch it into the air, I finish for him. Reggie laughs. Yep, literally. That's so cool, I say, hoping this means that there's more money for dog food for Amelia, and maybe even a little left over for Reggie. Say, that's some hat you've got there, Reggie says, just now noticing the hat I'm carrying. Oh, this? I say, laughing. It's a crazy tradition at my school, but one that's super fun. My mom actually made a hat just like this one when she was my age, I say proudly. Can I see it on you? Reggie asks, his eyes kind. Sure, I say, and I model the hat for him. It's beautiful, he says, and I know that he means it. Suddenly, all that nervousness from earlier just kind of melts away. My hat is beautiful, and it's a direct connection to Mama and to the whole history of Eastland Elementary School. Whatever happens today, however much trouble I get into, I know it will be all worth it. I better go, but it was good seeing you, Reggie. You too, Amelia. Bye, Ari, Reggie says. Thanks for everything. Hearing Reggie thank me has the same effect as hearing Mr. O tell me that he was impressed with my paper on Louisa May Alcott. However silly I might look on the outside, inside I'm positively glowing. I might not be nervous about Crazy Hat Day anymore, but I can tell that lots of other kids are. I see a group of kids getting off the bus with their hats in their hands, unlike on past Crazy Hat Days where everyone would proudly sport their silly hats from the moment they left their houses till the bus dropped them off back at home. Keisha is standing front and center by the double doors. She's wearing a bright red crab hat with boingy eyes waving on top, and she's encouraging everyone to put their hats on too. Come on, guys, show your school spirit. Show Principal Chandler that we value our Eastland Tiger traditions. I have to say, Keisha's enthusiasm is catching. I watch as a bunch of kids put on their hats, looking braver after hearing Keisha's motivating words. No wonder she got assigned 3 leadership roles, and no wonder Sasha wants to be her friend. Keisha actually seems pretty cool. Before you know it, more kids have hats on than don't, even the 1st and 2nd graders. I find Daniel lingering in the main hall. Ready? He asks. Ready as I'll ever be, I say, but I'm smiling. Together, we set up the crafts table and start calling out to the kids who don't have hats. Hats here! Come make your crazy hats! We've got stickers, we've got pipe cleaners, we've got toys. Whatever your hat needs, we've got you covered. A third grade girl wanders over. My mom wouldn't let me wear a hat to school, she says. Well, you can make one here if you want. She spots the fake flowers and brightens, though she still hesitates. Other kids wander over to see what we've got, but no one will start creating. None, that is, until Matthew Stone, one of the soccer stars, comes over. He's wearing a camouflage hat, but it's not exactly crazy, so he starts gluing aliens to it. Check this out, he shouts to a group of friends. His friends wander over and start gluing things to their hats, too. Then more kids come over and start decorating their hats or making new ones, each one crazier than the last. I'm helping the third grade girl attach some pipe cleaners to her hat when I look over her shoulder and see Mr. Chandler coming. He's walking down the hall, and there's no question, he's headed straight to our table. That's the end of chapter 35. We'll have to see how Crazy Hat Day turned out next time we read together in Paper Things.